that we're all so steeped in. But is it possible then that you might raise up an army, so to speak, of I don't know, spiritual fighters or of such to say stave off the onslaught of this, as you said earlier, the rapid increase of sort of the angry spirits? I mean, is it possible that we can fight back if we are aware of the spirituality of the whole matter? Is that possible?
Well, most of the people that I deal with are far more self-absorbed, and I don't want to use that as a negative sense, but people are much more interested in their own spiritual growth and development than looking at the global sense of what's happening with spirits. They want to know why these Kundalini experiences are happening, why these beings are appearing to me, why am I traveling outside of my body, why did this miraculous event happen around me. They want to know more about that and then how they can control it. That's what I deal with more than anything.
We have this question, our political director, India and Japan. Doctor, are you familiar with Sanskrit, the term Rashana? Now, I'm not good with those names. Rashaka, group ghost. Are you familiar with that?
I have not heard of that. How do you say that again?
Well, it looks like Sanskrit, Sanskrit.
The language Sanskrit, I'm familiar with that.
And then it says Rasha, that's Rahshashska.
That doesn't ring a bell.
Okay.
That doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. All right. So now let's get back to, in your book, what would somebody find in your book, say, a similar book that may be on a shelf? Do you feel like you have made some advances in your field, so to speak, that someone wouldn't find in other works?
Well, the main thing that is in the book that's new is the discussion of the reality of the human soul, how the soul looks, what its function is, what the dynamics are in the soul is in physical and mental illness, and also how the soul changes with the process of growth and enlightenment. Those are things that really aren't covered very well in any textbook or any book that I've found on spirituality.
Okay. And we have this question for you. Have you heard about the future from an entity? Are they able to tell you what's happening in advance?
Well, I have. And the future is not a fixed entity in time and space, from what I've read and from what I've experienced. The future is something that is related to our ability to choose from a number of realities. For instance, if you're sitting in your living room, there are a number of possible futures you could experience. You could get up and walk outside in the middle of the highway and let yourself be hit by a car. That's a possible future, but you're not likely to do that. There's some things that you're likely to do and certain things that you're not likely to do. Nostradamus talked about this in some of his writings, in that the future isn't fixed, and he even gave certain decision points at which human beings had to make choices, otherwise the human race or the earth itself would suffer. What I've seen is that entities come from different decision points in our future and try to guide us toward an optimal outcome for our own good. And in the next 4 or 5 years, there's a number of decision points related to the environment, related to the health and well-being of, even the sun, for instance, and also related to our leadership in this country that will have profound effects on how the world proceeds toward its own future. So the future is something that we can affect and that we change almost daily. That being said, there are certain things that are fixed that are almost unavoidable. There's such high probabilities, and there's so many people feeding into their likelihood that it makes it difficult to change certain of those things. And those are the things that those entities want to try to work with us on.
Okay. Well, is, say, like an event, like an earthquake, like the tsunami a couple of years ago, are those fixed events, and were you informed of them before they happened?
Well, we talked about the tsunami, and actually I talked about it with several of my students, and that was something that was a fixed event. We tried to mitigate it. We tried to work with the spirits that were affecting that, but that's just something we couldn't change. Earthquakes, however, are things that can be changed. And earthquakes happen, there's an earthquake going on somewhere every few seconds in the world, but the major ones are the things that the spirits want to try to help people understand and try to avoid. And they usually occur because of disruptions or eruptions of energy from the collective human unconscious. The way we think and the way we feel and the emotions that we express in the world and about the world have a tremendously profound effect on the earth itself. We're not separate from the earth. So the things that we hold in our unconscious and the things that we believe over time have an energy of their own. They set up a resonance that can affect the world in a positive or in a negative way.
You mentioned in the first hour about auras, and I've seen the scientific photographs of a leaf with a piece missing off, yet you could see the piece missing off. I think I've also may have seen hands where a digit has been missing off a hand, yet it appears in the aura. Do those, for instance, with the hand and the finger missing, the finger that is missing, has it gone over to the other side, waiting for the rest of the body to attach itself to it?
Well, one way to look at that, I think it would make it easier to understand, at least from the perspective of my training, is that the physical body is laid down in a pattern of energy, which is self-regenerating, so that when your physical body is born, it is born as part of an energetic blueprint upon which it's built. So if you cut your finger, that energetic blueprint makes sure that when you cut your finger, that skin and tissue relative to that part of your body grows back there, so that you don't grow a toe or an eyelash in that area, you grow back a finger. That energetic pattern is something that exists beyond just the physical pattern of the body. The energy pattern is something that when you remove the physical energy or the physical part of the body, it's still there, and you can see it with certain instruments, and one of those is included in the aura photography.
All right. And for those of you just tuning in, we have on our newsmaker line tonight Dr. Mitchell Earl Gibson, who's a board-certified forensic psychiatrist, author, and public speaker, and a list of other accreditations. So just go to TheEdge's website, and also you can go to his website, www.tybro.com, Tybro. Dr. Gibson, can you or have you attempted to prove scientifically that these entities exist?
I don't really. Right now, the work that we're doing has us so busy that I don't have time to try to work with scientists in proving that.
Okay.
Because if a scientist, many scientists have very closed minds about the supernatural, and as quiet as it's kept, the government has spent billions of dollars working with spiritual entities and spiritual energies. They know that it exists. So the people that are trying to prove its existence are the people that don't already know about it.
Is remote viewing, is that somebody who's still alive is able to send their spirit out their body over there to look in the corner and look back? I mean, is that a prelude to their death and how they're going to be once they die? They're just able to do it while they're living?
Well, remote viewing has to do with a faculty that all humans have to be able to see while staying in one place anywhere in the universe, any time in the universe that they choose to focus on. They don't have to necessarily travel outside of their bodies, and that was something that was discovered and paid for by our tax dollars. Even though the Russians had done it, Germans had done it, I met a man who was part of MI5, which was one of the original intelligence groups in Britain that perfected that technique. It's a latent ability that many humans have. They use it. It's something people write about, but it's not something necessarily related to death, but it's a normal function of the brain that a lot of people use, sometimes spontaneously, but it's something that we can be trained in using.
All right. By the way, I see Andy has updated the live chat. We have links at the top now that the headings are Psychic Reading, Body of Light book, Signs of Mental Illness book, Negative Thought Forms, and the latest quakes in the USA, which seem to be escalating. Thank you for that, Andy. We have this from the Fast Blast for you, Doctor. What is your clinical definition of a demonic entity?
A clinical definition of a demonic entity. Well, I can give you a spirit